Hi, welcome back, and this is Real Life with Jazz Zaro. Hi Jazz.
Hello.
Hiya.
Hi.
Carry on from one of our previous videos about the dark night of the soul. Can you tell me a bit more about that, like the actual effects it has on a person?
Yes, I can. Yes, sure. Hello to you for watching and tuning into our channel again. I'd like to just mention, first of all, that whatever I talk about on this channel, a lot of the time, it's down to the fact that it comes from my own experience and also clients' experience and sometimes students' experience, but a lot of it is based on my experience. So with the dark night of the soul, I've already kind of touched on certain areas in the previous videos, and I'd like to kind of just say that it is something that for, you know, like something that you would have a calling for. You get called to the dark night of the soul. Now, at the time, you don't know that it's a calling. You may, if you're very spiritually aware already, and I can say that, you know, sometimes people that get called are already sort of like seeking on the quest or somewhere opening up to, you know, their spiritual pathway. So you kind of like get this calling, and you may not know that it's a calling. You feel confused, you feel like life is just going downhill, things are like not working out for you, everything's going wrong, and you just don't know what's happening. So first of all, there is a lot of confusion that starts to happen, and then you're forced into, you know, sometimes you can be forced into making certain decisions about your life, and sometimes they affect other people around you as well. You can be sort of like in that situation where, you know, sometimes that you have that saying, caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. It's like, you know, either way you turn is going to be hard, but you have to turn in one direction or another. Because, okay, so if you stay in the deep blue sea, you may feel you're going to drown, you know. But if you head towards the devil, you just feel that things are not getting any better. In fact, they're getting worse, you know. So there is that decision that has to be taken as well about something that occurs in your life. Then one of the other things that goes on is extreme solitude that occurs as a result of you withdrawing from people, but also people withdrawing from you. Now this happens because people don't know what is going on for you, and also they don't understand. They really just don't know, you know, how to deal with you. And so it makes people back off, and also, you know, from your side as well, you feel that people don't understand you, they're not on that same sort of wavelength, so you feel that you have to withdraw, and because of that, it leads you into extreme solitude. Now I'm using that word solitude actually in a very nice way. But the reality is that it creates real deep isolation and loneliness, you know. Some people, as a result of this loneliness and isolation, will go into depths of depression. And I know that, you know, as a result of the trauma that I went through, I did go through what you call reactive depression. But you have to be careful that it is a reactive depression or depression as a result of what you're going through in terms of the dark night of the soul, because with depression it could also be other depressions such as a chemical imbalance, and then that may not be to do with the dark night of the soul, so you need to be very clear about that. But then it can also trigger off other things like anxiety. That's bound to be there, you know, and as a result of this, then there's other things as well, depending on what else is going on for you. And I know that I went through lots of, you know, sort of phobias such as agoraphobia and claustrophobia. I had to deal with that. And that was really hard and that happens as a result of the loneliness and the isolation and the withdrawing, because then, you know, when you've withdrawn so much for such a long time, it's hard then to put yourself in touch with people and places because you've separated yourself from it. So then how can you connect to it? You know, so you can't. So there's this extreme sort of loneliness that starts to happen.
Is there anybody you can go to for help? What would be the best way forward?
You have to go with your own intuition and guidance. Now, for me, I can share that, you know, like this was like, you know, you're talking about 25, 30 years ago, long time ago. There is a lot more help now. In those days, I didn't have internet. I didn't have, you know, YouTube where I could watch a video like the one we're making. I didn't have, you know, I didn't even have a TV actually, because I was in such an isolated state, so didn't have TV at all. Now, I went to see my GP, and, you know, my GP put me in touch with a, you know, a psychologist, psychotherapist, and you know, it was such a terrible experience because I remember going to see him and he just did not engage with me because he sat there with a notepad and he was making notes. And I sat there trying to talk to him, but he was busy making notes of what I was saying. And then I didn't go back because I just didn't feel that it helped me in any way.
So he wasn't engaging in what your actual
No, because he wasn't like a counsellor. He was more like a psychologist. But even later on when I went to see some counsellors, they didn't really understand it in a spiritual sense because it was very much on a kind of practical level, you know, where they sat and listened. So active listening skills, and that's all it was really, because people didn't understand the spiritual aspect of what I was going through, you know. So if you're, you know, since then a lot more people have gone through it. There were people going through it at the same time as me, because there was kind of these waves of energy that have been coming, that have been shifting us, you know, and there was like quite a lot of people in that same period as myself who have gone on now to be, you know, therapists or writers, or, you know, in some way sharing their knowledge of what happened. But no, I found that for me there wasn't help. There wasn't outside help. The help that I had to come from me. It came from within. And so that's something I'll talk about in another video, because that's a whole area in itself, in terms of, you know, what I did and how I did it. But in terms of the going back to the traits of the dark night of the soul, you know, so you have this isolation, and then what happens is, because you're in that isolation, you're met with your fears. All your fears start to come to the surface. Everything that you're scared about. And, you know, for me, the spiritual side was fine because I had been around, the spiritual stuff, living the spiritual life. So for me, it was easy to do that. It was actually living here on this earth that was my biggest fear. And that is partly why I just wanted to die and be with spirit, because I could not live here. It was too hard for me. I couldn't understand people around me everywhere. I couldn't understand what this life was about. It was like, what am I doing here? What is my life supposed to be here? It was just sort of like, I can't live. I cannot live. And so for me, that was one of the biggest fears I had,
So
trying to live here.
did you feel that you were sort of like trapped between the real world and the spiritual world? You're sort of like in the middle?
Yeah, I was very trapped. Yeah, very trapped. And that's part of the journey where you feel trapped, because when you're going through the journey, one of the other things that happens is you begin to notice the metaphorical chains and shackles that are holding you back, holding you down, and it's like, not just those, but everything, whatever your life purpose is supposed to be about, and you just sort of like get stripped of so much. I was just stripped down to nothing. Everything was taken away from me, everything. I had no money, I had nobody around me, no people. There was nothing in my life, nothing. And everything was just stripped away from me. That was one of the biggest lessons I had to learn, because it was about, on a spiritual level, it was taking me down the lesson of non-attachment. It was like, can I still survive if I don't have anything? And that's where I had to find the survival.
Do you feel it was a process of stripping you down and then building you back up?
Yeah, that sort of like is the later stages. So, first of all, you go through all this pain, isolation, stripping down, confusion, and then you end up with, what it does is it brings to the surface everything, everything. And a lot of past life stuff as well, maybe. And it's like you're having to then clear out. So you get stripped, and then there's all this clear out. And then, when you're completely broken down, and like, the phoenix rising from the ashes,
Yes,
sort of thing, then you have to rebuild. But I'd like to just mention that you can, the dark night of the soul can last for many, many, many years. And for me, it has done, but you can also have dark nights of the soul within dark nights of the soul periods. So there can be a long period of one that's going on, and then there can be other dark nights of the soul within that phase, because of the lessons you're learning and you're going through. And also how it started out, because everything is about, cycles in life. So whatever it was, that was going on, that happened to you at the start of the cycle, you go round, you do the clearing out, you then go to what you call the 0 point, which is what I had to go through, and then on the return you're met with similar kind of lessons, because that's your test on how you're handling it that second time round. And so I'm just about coming out of this phase now, because those lessons I went through at the beginning, I've been going through again since like 2006, and especially since 2015. The 2015 up until now, they have been Well, I would say more so 2010, 11, 12, and then 15, 2015 and 16. You know, these have been like, wow. It's
Revelation.
big tests
Yeah.
of the similar kind of things I went through initially, you know. But I've come out of it the other end so much stronger, so much stronger. And so, you know, if there is stuff that you can relate to from what I've said, and you can think, oh yeah, you know, that's what I'm going through, or maybe that's what I'm going through, and this is happening to me. And if you think it's like the dark night of the soul and nothing, you know, people around you are not understanding, it could be a spiritual experience. So, you know, if you want to speak to me, I'm a therapist. I deal with these kind of issues with clients. I do Skype sessions, and by all means, you know, you can contact me, and you can get in touch via my website or the email, and just run the issues by me, and you know, we can take it from there, and see how it helps.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Please subscribe.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see.